to burst with 3 projectiles. Here's what a grenade launcher hit looks like with and without. Now I want to show you the artifacts I'm actually farming for. This is a practical guide for Maru. Make sure to kick back and enjoy. I powered Maru up and took her right into a Calamity Ops. Here's how it went. These are the artifacts I settled on for now. Later in the video, I'll show you which artifacts I'm actually searching for. Getting right into it, the Dvergar drill is actually a great grenade launcher, even though it's associated with the season pass. It has more of a damage over time effect and perks for direct hits. It's worth mentioning that there is a modifier on this season's Calamity Ops called Enhanced Barrage. Maru should be using her Abyss Engulf in order to block this damage for her teammates. This is the Vortex barrier that shows up at the muzzle of her cannon. Her Vortex barrier is a big deal. As you can see, every time she receives damage to that Vortex barrier, she's gaining overshield. In order to make this work properly, you need to be building up the energy bar above your health and overshield. This bar is called resonance. In order to build resonance, you need to either block damage with your Abyss Engulf, or you need to do damage using Annihilation Blast. If you're the only defensive character, it's good for you to use the Vortex barrier to block the barrages for your other teammates. As much as Maru seems like a defensive character, she is technically an offensive character, so don't forget to use your super. Her super is called Blight Volley. Her super is actually really powerful and meant to be used, especially on ads. In fact, they try to encourage you to use it on ads because there's actually a perk in the relic abilities that allows you to get up to 50% of her super back after killing enemies. This is the 3rd relic trait and it's called Final Wish. Next, we look at your weapon mastery, which is the Blast Resonance. When your resonance energy bar is above 50%, every single one of your shots are actually going to burst with 3 projectiles. Here's what a grenade launcher hit looks like with and without. Now I want to show you the artifacts I'm actually farming for. Since Maru is always reloading, Unrelenting Shell is kind of a no-brainer. Getting damage resist after a reload is pretty free. If you saw my Rossi 11 advanced guide, you know how I feel about Safeguard. I'm all about being able to tank damage. The 2 damage dealing artifacts I'm looking for are Bellicose Blazer and Scattering Shell. An area of effect damage increase and a movement speed up, sign me up. The 60% blast damage increase is also pretty awesome. Now, some of my tips for playing Maru are kind of similar to Rossi 11 in the sense that I'm trying to stick near my teammates and absorb damage as much as possible, as often as possible. And whenever it's time for objectives and things like that, I'll usually be the first to try to volunteer and get them done. Note here that you can see that the Hellhest drones are actually in the way of the beam. Keep that in mind whenever you're doing this. So here you see me tanking that damage. Despite that, one of my teammates fell. And so one thing that I've been trying to do is whenever I have a fallen teammate, I usually try to pull up the Vortex, the barrier, and basically get the res and stay over the body. And that helps out a lot. So that does take a little bit of timing because, you know, like you can see this scenario right here. I need to wait a little bit, make sure I have enough energy to pull up that shield. And then also when enemies do a certain amount of damage to that shield, it'll actually break. So here I end up just needing to resort to doing the extra damage. I need to get better at actually doing the using Maru's super, because Maru's super is a little bit it's very short and it's very quick, and you need to be able to make sure you're aiming properly for that. So you're just traversing. So yeah, just basically with Maru, I think the name of the game is finding the correct balance with doing tons of damage, crowd control, and anytime you have an opportunity to do burst damage, like basically harping on that. You also, like, of course, want to be tanking damage as often as you can. I mean, you're still mobile. Like, you're not Yolder, so you're not putting up a bubble one time and, you know, that's your opportunity to protect your teammates. Every so often, you've got the ability to pull up that wall and step in front of your teammates. So you should definitely be doing that, especially if you have squishy teammates on your team. Teammates that maybe can't take as much damage as you do. And also remember, yeah, here in the Calamity Ops here, that barrage is going to happen at random, not really random times, but on a cycle. And so here, you know, I think this is my second Calamity Ops. I started to realize that thing will continue to spawn behind you on sort of a timer. So you got to make sure to watch out for that. There I had the barrier up longer than I needed to. You want to make sure you're not just holding it and moving around. You want to like use it strategically. Like when there's an opportunity that you see, maybe your allies are getting hit and you decide to like step right in front of them and, you know, pull up that barrier. That's a great opportunity. Times where you want to build up a charge for your cannon ability, that's another time. Like, and you're getting, you know, shot at, it's a perfect opportunity. And then here you can see another scenario. I try to like, you know, pull out the barrier. Those projectiles actually take out Maru's shield really fast. So you see me have to like actually tap it and actually pull out the shield again. And here, yeah, like just doing as much as I can. Also, just because you don't have a barrier doesn't mean you can't tank damage for your teammates. Because if you've built up an overshield, then that means that you can step in front of your teammates and still take damage for them. So I think that's definitely something to note and keep in mind. You can definitely do. I can't believe I was able to get those all done. Okay. So one thing you'll notice, this is just like an extra tip actually, but whenever this particular boss stomps, you can actually just jump and you don't have to get booped up. Here my teammate went down, so like I'm headed over, getting a little bit better as we go of like aiming with the ability blast there. I did take the opportunity to use my super on the boss, and it did quite a bit of damage as well. Don't neglect your grenade launcher, and hopefully you're able to get those two main perks, auto loading holster and polyploidy. At the end of the video you can look at my build, but I did get polyploidy on my heavy grenade launcher. So here I'm just continuing to block damage. The boss is almost dead, and you see I start pulling out my heavy and start trying to do a lot more damage, but still making sure to, you know, use my barrier in order to protect my teammates as often as possible. And that's it. That was a run. That wasn't the most efficient run or anything like that, but I think it's a good run for you to observe as a new person starting to use Maru, or maybe even get some ideas, because it's just cool to examine the scenarios that Maru is good at and where she fits within the meta. This is kind of showing where Maru really shines, where if you have the modifier like we have in this one, where you have the projectiles, those projectiles were actually killing my teammates. So any opportunity you get as a Maru to be able to jump in and block those and take that damage, that is more uptime on your teammates, where they can continue to do more damage, they can continue to get the objective complete. So yeah, hopefully this was informative, hopefully it was fun. I hope that the first part of this, or first half of this, was like a lot more interesting than your average build guide or, you know, character guide. And anyway, I just really appreciate you watching, and if you're new here, feel free to go through my channel and check out some of my other videos. I like to do some different things here. Mainly just, you know, things I feel like doing. Mainly it has to do with like either lore or it's going to be just like straight up build videos. But the way that I like to do them is actually going in and doing stuff. So, but anyway, take care. Have a good day. See you later.